The most dangerous thing in the world is a man who is everything and still feels nothing. I learned that at my wedding. My wedding dress was Italian silk, heavier than it looked. It felt like I was wearing chainmail. The chapel was in the penthouse of the Apex Tower, all glass and cold white orchids. Below us, Seoul glittered like a circuit board, endless and precise. And him, Kim Min-jun, my husband. He stood at the altar, a sculpture in a Tom Ford tuxedo. His face was perfect, calm. But his eyes, they scanned the room, the guests, me with the flat, assessing gaze of a man checking inventory. There was no joy, no anticipation, only a profound, yawning absence. The priest asked if he would take me as his wife. He said yes, and the word echoed in the sterile air, empty of meaning. He slid a ring onto my finger, a flawless, icy diamond, and his touch was so cold it burned. That was my first clue. I was marrying a void, and voids, by their very nature, consume everything you try to pour into them. But I didn't know that then. I just knew I was 22, a virgin, and so tired I could barely stand. Not from the ceremony. From the years of running that led me straight to him. The auction of my life had concluded. The gavel had fallen, and as I walked back down the aisle, my new husband's hand a weight on my arm, I realized I couldn't feel my feet touching the ground. It was like walking on bones. I wasn't born for this gilded cage. I was born in a small, perpetually damp apartment in Incheon, where the sound was the constant sigh of ships in the harbor and my father's weary cough from the machine shop. My world was the smell of metal shavings and boiled barley. My escape was books, stories of grand, sweeping loves of men who looked at women with fire, not calculation. My father, before the cancer took him, used to say I had a heart too soft for the world's edges. He was right. After he was gone, the edges closed in. The debt was a living thing in our apartment, growing in the shadows. My mother's eyes, once bright, became haunted hollows. Then the men started coming. Not the cartoonish gangsters from films, but quiet men in good shoes who spoke in polite, terrifying percentages. The last one, Mr. Park, didn't threaten. He just laid out a spreadsheet. The numbers were a death sentence. My mother's trembling hand on mine. Her whisper, Yoon-ji, there is a way. A proposal. A proposal. From a man she would not name. A man of significant means who required a wife of certain qualities. Purity. Obedience. Discretion. It was a transaction dressed in tradition. My life, my body, my future, in exchange for a clean slate. I was the final asset my family could liquidate. I said yes. Not for nobility, but because I was so very tired. Tired of the fear. Tired of the hunger. Tired of watching my mother shrink. I thought the exhaustion would end when the debt did. I was a fool. It was just the beginning of a deeper fatigue. I met him 3 days before the wedding. A formality, they said. He sent a car, a black sedan with windows so dark they swallowed the light. It took me to a private dining club high above the city, a place of hushed tones and priceless art. He was already there, standing by the window, a silhouette against the sprawl of nighttime Seoul. He didn't turn when I entered. Sit, he said. Not a request. His voice was low, a vibration you felt in your chest. I sat, my knees trembling under my simple dress. Finally, he turned, and I understood. This was not a man. This was a force, handsome in a way that was almost cruel, all sharp angles and controlled power. But his eyes, they were the still surface of a deep, frozen lake. He looked at me, through me, as if cataloging my components. Lee Yoon-ji, he stated. Do you know who I am? I nodded, my throat tight. Do you understand the terms of our arrangement? Another nod. Speak. The word was a lash. Yes, I whispered. I understand. He took his seat, unfolding his napkin with unnerving precision. You will be my wife. You will live in my home. You will present yourself when required. You will not ask questions. You will not embarrass me. In return, your family's obligations disappear. You will want for nothing material. He picked up his chopsticks, his movements economical, lethal. Do you have any questions? I had 1,000. Who are you, really? What do you want from me? Will you ever look at me like I'm a person? But under that glacial gaze, All I could manage was no, a flicker of something. Goaded, disappointment, crossed his features. Good, he said, and turned his attention to the food. The meal passed in silence, broken only by the click of porcelain. As I was leaving, he spoke again, without looking up. The dress for the wedding. It will be white. Symbolically appropriate, I'm told. The humiliation was so complete it felt like a physical blow. He wasn't just buying a wife. He was buying the idea of one. A virgin. A blank slate. Something else to own. The first month was a study in isolation. I lived in the penthouse, a museum of modern design where every surface was cold to the touch. Min-jun was a ghost. He left before dawn, returned after midnight. Sometimes he didn't return at all. I had everything. A wardrobe of clothes I didn't choose. A chef who prepared meals I ate alone. Accounts with staggering limits. And I had nothing. No purpose. No companionship. The silence was a roaring in my ears. I began to notice things. The men who stood in the lobby, too still, watching. The way Min-jun's driver, a man named Jay, had knuckles that were permanently scarred. The occasional call Min-jun would take in his study, his voice dropping into a register that turned the air cold. I wasn't stupid. I knew what significant means often meant in Seoul's underbelly. But knowing and facing it are different. One evening he came home early. He stood in the doorway of the living room, watching me read. "You look bored," he stated. I flinched. "No, I'm fine. Lying is a useless skill," he said, walking in. He poured himself a whiskey. Neat. "What do you want, Yoonji?" The question shocked me. I don't know. Of course you do. Everyone wants something. Security. Power. Pleasure. He took a sip, his eyes on me over the rim of the glass. What does a good girl from Incheon want after selling herself? The cruelty was casual, precise. It found the bruise and pressed. Something in me, long suppressed, cracked. "I want you to see me," I said, my voice trembling. He went very still. "See you? As a person. Not an item you purchased." He set the glass down slowly. For a long moment, he just looked at me. The frozen lake in his eyes churned, dark currents shifting beneath. "Seeing is dangerous," he said, his voice softer now. "It creates obligations." And then he left the room. But that night, for the first time, he didn't sleep in his separate wing. He stayed in the living room, in the dark. And I felt, for a flicker, seen. A fragile, terrifying bridge was built. He began to have dinner with me. The conversations were stilted, then haltingly real. He asked about my father. I saw a muscle twitch in his jaw when I described the funeral. I asked about his work. Import-export, he said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. The first I'd ever seen. It didn't reach his eyes. He started leaving small things for me. A book of poetry by a writer I'd mentioned. A ridiculously delicate pastry from a famous bakery. Once, after a day where I'd cried from sheer loneliness, I found a single warm pebble on my pillow. It was smooth, worn by the sea, no note. It was the most intimate gift I'd ever received. The physical distance remained a canyon between us. He never touched me. Our marriage was unconsummated, a technicality. But in the quiet spaces between words, something else was growing. A recognition. Two fractured people, orbiting each other in the dark. I saw his exhaustion, a mirror of my own. The weight of whatever empire he ruled was crushing him too. He wasn't a monster, he was a man in a cage of his own making. One rainy night, he found me on the terrace, shivering. He didn't speak. Just took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The warmth, the scent of him. Sandalwood and something metallic, like rain on pavement, enveloped me. "Why did you choose me?" I asked, the rain masking my tears. He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. "Because you were tired," he said finally, his voice barely a whisper. "And I am so tired, Yeonji, of everything." In that moment, the void had a voice, and it was as weary as my own. The reveal came on a Tuesday. Min-jun was away on business. Jay, his driver, was assigned to me for the day. We were in the car, stuck in traffic. Jay, usually a vault, was tense. His eyes kept darting to the mirrors. Is something wrong, Jay Sessi? I asked. He forced a smile. No, Ajuma. Just traffic. He'd never called me that before. It was a term of respect for a married woman, but from him it felt like a mask. My phone, a gift from Minjun, buzzed with an unknown number. A message. A photograph. It was Minjun entering a love hotel in Itaewon. The timestamp was from last night. The text below. Does your husband satisfy you, virgin wife? Or does he get his satisfaction elsewhere? The world tilted. I felt the blood drain from my face. Before I could react, another photo arrived. Minjun, but younger, in a news clipping. The headline was in English. Prosecutor's son questioned in hostess bar murder. The face of the dead hostess, bright and smiling, filled the screen. Then another text. Ask him about Choi Hae-jin. Ask him who really owns you. I gasped, dropping the phone. Jay's eyes snapped to me in the rearview mirror. Ajuma? Who is Choi Hae-jin? The name tore from my lips. Jay's face went ashen. The car swerved. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His terror was answer enough. That night, Minjun returned. The penthouse felt charged, like before a storm. He found me in the library, the phone in my hand. The images seared into my vision. Yinji, he said, his voice careful. I turned the screen to him. Who is she? His expression didn't change, but the air around him turned to ice. Where did you get this? Who is she? I screamed, the sound tearing my throat. The dam broke. All the fear, the confusion, the absurd hope flooded out. He moved then, fast, grabbing my wrist. Not to hurt me, but to steady me, to force my gaze to his. Listen to me. That was a long time ago. It was not what it seems. Was she your lover? Did you kill her? The words hung in the air, monstrous. Pain flashed in his eyes, real and raw. No, he said, the word gritty. She was my responsibility, and I failed her. He released me, running a hand through his hair, a gesture of utter fatigue. The man who sent you this, he is an enemy from my past. He is using you to get to me, to unbalance me. Why? What did you do? What did I do? A bitter laugh escaped him. I survived. My father was a prosecutor who went after the wrong people. It destroyed him. They killed my mother, Hae-jin. She was collateral damage in a war that never ended. I didn't choose this life, Yanji. It chose me. I built what I have with my hands, and I hold it with my teeth, because the moment I let go, the wolves will finish what they started. He looked at me, truly looked at me, and I saw the boy he'd been shattered under the armor of the man. And now, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, they found you. The consequences were immediate. The penthouse was no longer a cage. It was a bunker. More guards appeared. The windows were reinforced. My world shrank to these rooms. Minjun was different. Attentive, almost feverishly so. But his eyes were constantly scanning, calculating. The enemy had a name. Kang Dae-sung. A rival who'd been a junior member of the same organization Minjun had ultimately wrested control from. A man obsessed with legacy and slights. Minjun explained it in clip sentences. Dae-sung believed the leadership should have been his. He saw Minjun as an upstart, a traitor's son who stole what was rightfully his. Hae-jin had been Dae-sung's girl. Her death, officially ruled a suicide after a drug overdose, was a wedge Minjun had used to weaken Dae-sung's standing years ago. Now, Dae-sung was back, stronger, fueled by a decade of hatred, and he had made a critical decision. Hurting Minjun directly was difficult, but hurting what was his, that was strategic. I was the strategy. He will try to take you. Minjun said one night, his hand resting on the cold glass of the window, not to kill you, to own you, to prove he can take what is mine, to break me. He turned to me, his face a mask of grim determination. I will not let that happen. But the fear was a third presence in the room. Our fragile connection, born in quiet understanding, was now twisted by external danger. Every touch was fraught, every moment together shadowed by the clock ticking down. We were living on a fault line, and the ground was beginning to shake. The pressure forged a terrible intimacy. The need for comfort became a physical ache. One night, during a blackout caused by a storm I didn't believe in, we huddled in the living room by candlelight. The guards were posted outside the door. The world was reduced to the circle of flickering light. He told me about Hae-jin, not as a lover, but as a scared girl caught between two violent men. He tried to get her out. She'd been afraid of Dae-sung's obsession. I was too late, he said, the candlelight carving deep shadows into his face.